The case for impeachment.
I'm sorry, look at that. Just look at that cover. That is, just put the cover back up. That is liberal catnip. You can't tell me that any liberal can pass by that, Willie, and not by that book immediately.
They should just start printing the bestseller list now.
Hold it now.
We are barely into the second month of President Trump's first term, but some Democrats are already calling for his impeachment. Others fear a backlash from a public weary of political obstructionism.
You just started that by saying the question becomes, should we wait to call for impeachment until we have the answers to that question? Or some of the questions?
I have not called for impeachment.
His motives and his actions are contemptible, and I will fight every day until he is impeached.
We want to know about the hacking into the DNC and the interference with our elections. And I really want to know, because I know if we can prove collusion that he is impeachable. We want to know
Congresswoman, what's the evidence? Forgive me for jumping in, but what is the evidence that would lead to impeachment here?
Well, that's what I'm telling you. We have investigations that have already started. There's an investigation in the Senate Intelligence Committee. In the House, you have investigations going on in several places, in several ways. This man is questionable. And what I'm saying is, because we are suspicious, many of us, about who he is, where he came from, what his actions are, and all of his conflicts, and what this business of loving Putin and the Kremlin so much, we have to find out more about him. And some of that, I think, leads to the possibility of impeachment. And
all right, Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters once again calling for President Trump to be impeached. Now, Waters was taking part in one of the many tax protests that were held over the weekend, where all these liberal snowflakes were out in full force. Now, in case you were too busy, too sane to attend one of these crazy demonstrations, here's some of the fun that you missed out on. Take a look.
There are two ways to remove the President of the United States. We have already, more than once in this program, examined the 25th Amendment, which allows the Vice President to remove the President with the support of a majority of the Cabinet in writing. The Vice President then becomes the acting President. The Vice President can initiate this action whenever he believes the President is, quote, unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, end quote. The President can appeal that action only to the Congress, and then a vote of the House and Senate will settle the matter. The 25th Amendment does not specify what it means for the President to be unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. It could obviously be for health reasons. The President has fallen into a coma or is otherwise physically ill. The 25th Amendment was actually used to make Dick Cheney the acting president for a matter of hours when George W. Bush got a colonoscopy. The 25th Amendment could obviously be used to remove a president whose mental health is in doubt. And as the world knows now, that is the current condition of the American presidency. The president's mental health is in doubt.
Elizabeth Warren and a small group of other Democratic senators are preparing to introduce a bill that would require the president to divest from his various business interests or face impeachment.
So he's been there like 20 minutes and already you're impeaching him.
Well, we think that there must be an impeachment investigation initiated in the United States Congress based on the violations of the Emoluments clauses, the Foreign Emoluments Clause and the Domestic Emoluments Clause, both of which make clear that the President of the United States cannot engage in the kind of corruption that we're seeing now of the Oval Office. This kind of corruption is massive, and it's far worse than even Watergate. And Nixon White House counsel John Dean has said that the presidency is not a profit-making enterprise for its occupant. It is a public office, and the president is a public servant.
The Democrats understand they need to control the House of Representatives to impeach somebody?
Well, right now, it looks pretty obvious that he's on a collision course with the Emoluments Clause because he has refused to divest himself of tens or hundreds of millions of dollars of business interests he has around the world doing business with foreign governments. And the Emoluments Clause is basically a foreign bribery clause, and it says that no elected official, either a member of Congress or the President of the United States, can accept a gift an emolument or any payment at all from a foreign government. And he just simply refuses to accept that reality. So if he goes into office, he refuses to divest himself. The moment that the first conflict comes up, that's going to look like an impeachable offense, at least to this professor of constitutional law.
Of course, Democrats can't do anything about impeachment. They don't control the House. There's something the House Republicans would have to do, but it just shows the challenges that Democratic leaders have in trying to resist Donald Trump, fight Donald Trump, but not look like they're overreaching. And some folks on the left really want to fight very hard, even throwing around the I word, Kate.
Well, and Manu, doesn't it also show a little bit how short everyone's memories seem to be? I mean, you and I are both old enough to remember that when Democrats went wild over Mitch McConnell saying he wanted to make Barack Obama a one-term president.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And that's the real risk that Democratic leaders sense in taking such lines of argument right now, that the Trump team is going to turn around. Republicans are going to say, well, look, Democrats didn't try at all to work with us. They started calling for impeachment right out of the gate. And that's one reason why you can't trust Democrats. And that's why a lot of Democratic leaders are not willing to go anywhere near where Maxine Waters is going right now.
And right now, it's not about only Donald Trump. It is about the integrity of the presidency. So, yeah, I think that we need to begin investigations to not go after Donald Trump, but to protect our Constitution and the presidency of the United States, to make sure that nobody can monetize the presidency and make profit off of it for their own gain.
That blockbuster book deal for the Obamas after a heated bidding war between major publishers. Penguin, Random House landing the rights to the former president and first lady's memoirs. A deal worth a reportedly $60 million. I said that right, Robin. Yes, $60 million. And Cokie Roberts joins us now. And Cokie, we've seen that's a lot of money for 2 books or a few books.
A lot of money.
Yeah. How does this compare to other books from former presidents?
Well, President Clinton reportedly got $15 million, President Bush $10 million, Mrs. Clinton $8 million. So it's a lot more money, but it is eye-popping.